Good afternoon, beautiful people. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we're talking about a story that's already making political waves. A federal judge is questioning the DOJ's arguments for keeping Lindsey Halligan as prosecutor in the case against James Comey and Letitia James. Let me be clear. I think this is an attempt to derail accountability over a scheduling technicality, and it is complete nonsense. These two powerful figures still need to face the law like everybody else. Also, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is accused of misusing campaign funds on a life of luxury. But let's get into it. Welcome to Nellie Miranda.
Director James Comey's case is back in court as he fights charges of obstruction of justice and lying to Congress. Also in the courtroom, New York State Attorney General Letitia James's attorneys, after she was charged separately with mortgage fraud. They're both arguing that interim U.S. Attorney Lindsey Halligan, who brought the charges, is serving in her post illegally because she served longer than 120 days, must be confirmed by the Senate.
As always, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Okay, so a judge is reviewing whether Lindsey Halligan's appointment as interim U.S. attorney exceed the 120-day window. Defense lawyers, surprise, surprise, are arguing that because of this timing issue, Halligan should not be allowed to continue overseeing the prosecutions of both Comey and Letitia James. And their goal is obvious. They want the case tossed out entirely, not based on innocence, not based on evidence, but based on the calendar. Meanwhile, the DOJ says Halligan needs to stay on because she was the attorney who presented the evidence, handled the grand jury, and knows the case inside and out. No serious case should ever collapse over something this trivial.
Andy, do the plaintiffs have a point?
Well, they do, Brian, and this really isn't any fault of Lindsey Halligan's. The statute that she was appointed as interim U.S. attorney under allows the president or through the attorney general to appoint an interim U.S. attorney for 120 days. And by the time Halligan got the job, her predecessor, Eric Siebert, had already served the 120 days. So they have a good argument that she's probably not qualified under that statute.
So what's the pushback then? Take her side.
Well, I think the pushback is what the Attorney General and the Justice Department want to argue is that authority to prosecute in the United States comes not from the district U.S. attorney, but from the Justice Department and the Attorney General. So in order to try to firm this up, what Attorney General Bondi did was appoint Halligan as a special attorney and say that that was effective as of 3 days before Comey was indicted. The problem is she didn't do it till October 31st, and she's trying to backdate it, and I don't know if that's going to work with the court.
All right, so what would the move would be? Okay, we'll get another attorney. Is that correct? Is that it? Is that one way to fix it?
What could happen? This could be much ado about nothing because they could, they could disqualify her, but there's another statute that says the government would have then 6 months to bring a new indictment.
This is a distraction, and the defense knows it. Let's call this what it is. A desperate legal maneuver by Comey and Letitia James to avoid facing the consequences of their actions. Every time powerful political actors get cornered, suddenly they are concerned about procedural rules. But when it comes to their own conduct, rules mysteriously stop mattering. Whether Lindsey Halligan was on day 119 or day 140, that doesn't magically erase evidence or undo the actions that landed Comey and James in this legal trouble. And anyone who's ever watched a politically explosive case before knows that this pattern is usual. Attack the prosecutor, attack the process, but never address the actual allegations. This isn't about an appointment timeline. It's about dodging accountability. I remember James Comey saying, "See you in court," like he was big and bad, and now he just wants the entire thing dismissed. That's interesting.
My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial.
So it looks like he has changed his mind. He no longer wants a trial. He wants the case thrown out.
Comey case in particular, some notes that have come up that maybe show that he was more in tune to what was going on with the Russia hoax than originally stated. He was trying to get these notes thrown out. Is that going to play a role? Should the case go forward?
Yeah, what I find frustrating about this, Brian, is I think a lot of people think that what what they're most angry about Comey with, which he's been, I think, rightly criticized by the Inspector General and other investigations, is not really exactly what he's been charged with. So there's a kind of a disconnect there. And I don't know that the revelations about Russiagate are going to do anything to firm up the indictment the way it's pled.
A valid prosecution shouldn't hinge on a technical stopwatch. But let's talk about the big picture. Halligan hasn't been accused of misconduct. She hasn't been accused of bias. She hasn't even been accused of mishandling evidence. The only argument is her appointment may have lasted too long. Just think about how ridiculous that is. If that is all it takes to escape prosecution in America, a date stamp, then every criminal in this country just got a brand new strategy. Justice shouldn't be derailed by a bureaucratic technicality. If the defense wants to prove innocence, then they should address the facts. The DOJ is absolutely right to argue that removing Halligan would disrupt the case, slow everything down, and potentially jeopardize months of work.
Former FBI Director James Comey was in a federal courtroom in Virginia Thursday as his legal team and lawyers for New York Attorney General Letitia James argued the cases against them should be thrown out. James is facing indictments for bank fraud and making false statements to a financial institution, and Comey for obstruction of justice and making false statements to Congress. Both have pleaded not guilty, but they argue the federal criminal cases should be dismissed because the interim U.S. attorney in Virginia prosecuting them was improperly and illegally appointed.
Do they have a strong case?
I think this is one of their stronger arguments.
Lindsey Halligan, a former personal attorney for President Trump, was installed after the acting U.S. attorney resigned in September. While the interim position is limited to just 120 days, the Justice Department argued the law does not prevent the Attorney General from making successive appointments. NYU law professor Rebecca Roife says even if the indictments are dismissed, Comey and James could still face legal challenges.
Most likely they would be dismissed with what we call without prejudice, which means that somebody could bring these charges again.
James Comey and Letitia James are not the victims here. Let's not forget who we are talking about. James Comey, a former FBI director with a long history of questionable decisions. From the Clinton email investigation to the Russia probe so-called missteps that conveniently went in one political direction, I do not believe James Comey is innocent here. And Letitia James, the New York Attorney General who made an entire political career off of targeting her opponents, especially President Trump, while pretending to be neutral and screaming that she is fighting for everyday Americans. Now they're the ones under the microscope, and suddenly their lawyers want the court to believe that they are victims of improper appointment timing. Give me a break. These are people who exercised enormous power above others. If anything, they should be held to a higher standard, not allowed to duck accountability through procedural loopholes and legal bending of the rules.
Well, Wolf and Pam, I was listening very closely to how Judge Cameron McGowan Curry was going to handle this hearing. And she's a laid-back questioner, a very concise questioner. But boy, it was a grilling of the Justice Department, if I have ever seen one before, from a judge like this. What Judge Curry asked, her very last question of the the Justice Department, do you believe U.S. v. Trump was wrongly decided? That's a very telling question because the Trump defense team, when Donald Trump was a criminal defendant, he had won his case by having the prosecutor, Jack Smith, tossed off of it in Florida in a set of arguments very similar to this. And Judge Curry is now asking the Justice Department, are you guys against that now as the Justice Department wanting these cases against James Comey and Letitia James to go forward? The Justice Department lawyer responded, that's a different thing. That was a different situation that doesn't apply here. But that was quite a question that elicited gasps across the courtroom from a lot of people that were listening to this hearing. The other thing that Judge Curry did is she really dug in to some of the moves the Attorney General had made in this case to stand up and back Lindsey Halligan, the Eastern District of Virginia U.S. Attorney, who's there sent by Donald Trump on an interim basis. The bigger picture of this case is about, has it been too long without a Senate-confirmed person in this job? Judge Curry asked some questions of that, but she had even more questions for the Justice Department, even a back and forth on whether or not it was needed for the Attorney General to send an order into court And she pointed out that the Attorney General said in a statement to the court in an order she signed on October 31st, she had read all of the grand jury transcripts in this case. The judge went back and forth with that Justice Department attorney saying that's not even possible, and some of them are missing.
If there is evidence of wrongdoing, it doesn't matter if the prosecutor is Lindsey Halligan, John Smith, or Mickey Mouse. The facts are the facts. Trying to get a case thrown out because you do not like the prosecutor is the oldest trick in the book. What matters is whether the charges are legitimate, and from what I've seen, the DOJ believes they are. And by the way, judges question things all the time as part of their job. Judicial skepticism doesn't equal judicial rejection. It just means that the judge is reviewing the issue as they should. The real question is, though, should powerful political figures get a special escape hatch that no one else gets? Most Americans with common sense would say no. So here's the bottom line. James Comey and Letitia James are facing serious allegations. The DOJ believes the evidence is strong. Their attorneys are now trying to blow up the case over a trivial appointment timeline argument. This is nothing but gamesmanship, and we are all tired of the games. If everyday people have to face consequences, then the political class should too. Lindsey Halligan's appointment timing shouldn't be the shield that saves Comey or Letitia James from accountability. Now, do you think James Comey and Letitia James should face the charges in full, regardless of the Halligan appointment controversy? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But before I let you go, I have to tell you that another Democrat is at it again. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas is under fire for misuse of campaign funds. According to recent filings, she spent upwards of $75,000 of campaign cash on luxury hotels, limousine services, and private security. Crockett's campaign spent about $25,000 just on high-end hotels and limousine services since January of this year. In addition, the filings show nearly $50,000 spent on private security, despite the Congresswoman having publicly supported defunding the police. So the numbers are clear. Here's what is not clear: how this spending aligns with the public service mission that she has claimed and the glitzy rhetoric of caring for communities and not elites.
Switching gears just a little bit, Jasmine Crockett, she's a congresswoman from Houston. She's a lightning rod. She gets a lot of attention, and she brings a lot of attention on herself. Here's some attention on her spending spree. So $75,000 on, which is a big number. She spent $25,000 on luxury hotels and limo services and $50,000 on security services. This is kind of an issue for them and members of Congress, that they don't actually have the ability to have they have to pay for security in some way. She must feel that she needs it.
Yes, I won't knock the security portion of that. It is a dangerous time for elected officials. They need to make sure they're protected. However, the luxury hotels, all of those other amenities that she's giving herself, she's living high off the hog right now. And for a woman who is openly flirting with trying to run for Texas Senate seat against Senator either John Cornyn or whoever comes out of that primary, you are seeing a woman who's not spending an awful lot of time in Texas. That whole list of places she's been living high on the hog, I didn't see anything mentioning Dallas or Houston
Not been in
or
Amarillo.
Laredo or Amarillo. Right. She's all across the country making sure that she is getting taken care of, that her nails look fabulous, and that she is sounding off however she wants to. That's not good for the state.
And she's got security, too. Here she is talking about it just 12 days ago. Watch here.
We need to work on economic policies that will put people into a position in which they are not the working poor, where they are still needing the $6 a day to eat. So, yes, we need to talk about it, but I don't think that SNAP is the problem. I think that that is the resolution, or at least that is a symptom of the problem.
Well, I mean, I don't know how I feel about that, if whether or not that's laced with hypocrisy or not.
I don't know. It's kind of salady to me. I don't know if I followed the logic there,
if she can afford it, fine. I got no argument with that, okay? But if the government shuts down, Congress should not get paid. Period.
Congress should not get paid. And if the FAA is not working, those guys should not be traveling, by the way. If they're on a plane seat in that moment and other people can't get one, it's a bad look. Look, I know Motel 6 isn't the greatest place to stay in the world, but I think for a politician who's out there talking about the working class, live a lifestyle that emulates that just a little bit. I agree, security's great, but staying at the luxury hotels.
Yeah. But I think also, but you guys, like, it's not from her salary. This is from her campaign donations. Right. I think that it's not that she has her salary and it's whatever it is. Yeah. But it's that you're asking people who work very hard to give you money so that you can help make the case for why you should be running for Senate or something, and then you're spending it on this. And if her donors don't care, That's one thing. But it's why we have these reports so that they can make a decision.
I don't know that the donors even know. That's
why we have the report.
You got to talk about it, exactly.
Yeah, that's not a great way. I mean, a lot of campaigns get in a lot of trouble for misusing donor dollars. It's a very real thing. And so her burning money on the front end of a race on things like luxury hotels, that can continue to beat up on her the rest of the race. And it shows her campaign and herself are not trustworthy stewards of dollars.
Okay,
right.
Hypocrisy on policing. Again, Crockett called for defunding the police, insisting that we need to invest in our communities rather than fund law enforcement. But then her campaign spends big money on private security. That sends a message. The rules for the elite progressive are very different than the rules for everyday Americans. Elite lifestyle on the public dime. There's a mismatch between the rhetoric of populism and the reality of elitism. Now, even if everything is technically legal, the optics here matter. For voters, it's not just about what you do, but how it looks. When you preach modesty and community investment, but yet your campaign lives large, that undermines your credibility. When progressive politicians talk about investing in the people, yet allocate significant campaign funds to luxury travel, we must ask, where are the resources actually going? When the same politicians demand sacrifices from the middle class and working Americans, we should expect them to lead by example. Voters should demand transparency, consistent values, and accountability, not just slogans. But what do you think? Do you think this kind of spending disqualifies someone from claiming for the people status? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if honest commentary brings you value, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. And ring the bell so you never miss an update. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.